Hi, everyone. It's Marilyn, Alauria, and welcome to Who Can It Be Now? And today we have an interview for you with Laureen Nowlan-Card, and it is a great interview. I really am lucky for the teachers that come onto Membership for Your Soul and teach for us. My team member, Laura, finds these incredible people who just have just great expertise, and she just knows the type of people that I really like and resonate with. I think my whole team resonates with people like the ones we have on membership. And so when I get to meet them during the interview, it's so exciting for me because I don't know anything about them and I get to know them. And I just remember having such a great conversation with Laureen and just loving everything that she had to share. And we're so in alignment with our work. You know, she really teaches you how to live the life you're meant to live and to align with your true self and self-sabotage. And you could check her all out at laureennolan.card.ca. So you're going to hear some music and hear from her. Before I do that, she also taught an incredible class in Membership for Your Soul called Triggers Are Our Gems. Triggers are our gems. And we all experience triggers and we fight or we run, or if you're like me, you yell a curse word and run. And it's so great to be aware of your triggers because your triggers are your gems and they really teach you so much about yourself and help you to transform your life and transform your relationships. So if you're interested in that class, it is in Membership for Your Soul, and you can go check out membershipforyoursoul.com and check out that class along with so many other classes. They're just incredible classes in there, and there are new ones being added periodically. I think it's like every other month we add a new one. So check it out. And remember, if you want to be part of my podcast party, go to marilynalauria.com/party. I want to stop saying partay, but I just love saying partay. Partay party, and fill that out, RSVP, and come join us. And you're going to hear a little music and you will go into the interview. Enjoy it. And I will talk to you soon. Take care. All right, so we're already live. I already started the recording. It doesn't matter that it's like this. So I'm just going to do an introduction, even though they know who you are because you taught a magical, incredible lesson in September. So everybody, we are talking to Laureen Nowlan-Card. She's in a women's empowerment. So I usually do your bio first, just so you know. She's a women's empowerment coach, speaker, trainer, podcast host, and yogini. We actually have a lot in common. She's been an advocate for women and children her whole adult life. Laureen's natural passion for advocacy led to a successful career as a courtroom lawyer for over 20 years. That must have been exhausting. 7 years ago, she decided that she wanted to support women in a more proactive way and became a certified women's empowerment coach. She guides women to release their self-doubt and limiting beliefs and to work with their emotions so they can attain increased joy and peace. She leads women's public speaking training in Victoria, where she's proud to help women unleash the brilliance of their voices and ideas. And she also hosts a podcast on iTunes called Women Leading Change and is the founder of Women Thriving After Trauma, an online community offering resources, skills classes, and ongoing support. How are you, Laureen? Welcome, welcome.
I'm great, thanks. Other than not being able to join you on video because of the power, I'm great. Yeah.
Good. So I usually, a lot of times they know this, we're very transparent that you guys write out questions for us to ask, but the first, but I'm going to go off cue, book. I tend to go off
Oh,
book.
love it. I love it. Yeah. Yeah.
Good. The first question I have for you, because that's such a transition, what made you go from courtroom attorney to the work that you're doing today?
So many things, but I think ultimately I was sitting across from women and men, but I was drawn to what was happening with the women that I was sitting across from. So whether they were victims of crime or they were accused of a crime, I was looking at these magnificent, brilliant, amazing people, human beings, and they didn't see it. You know, they were living lives so much less amazing than they were and what they were worthy of. And there was this feeling of disconnect from what they knew themselves to be and what I could see them to be. And so I get tired of helping them pick up the pieces, and wanted to be more proactive about it because I'm kind of a problem solver, a lot of a problem solver. As you can tell from my bio, if I see a gap and a need, then I try to fill it, which probably comes from my own trauma background, a need to help people. But that's, also my brilliance. That's where I thrive. So that was the main reason that I wanted to move into that. And also, I've kind of always been a coach or a counselor for people. It's my natural essence. So it really aligned for me.
So were you dealing with clients who went through trauma? I would imagine you were. And is that
Yeah.
okay? And did you experience trauma yourself in your life?
I did, yeah. And I think a lot of people do. The more I delve into that area, the more I'm convinced that most people experience trauma. And now I'm learning about intergenerational trauma. So even if someone hasn't experienced their own trauma in their life, which would be, extremely rare, they have their parents or their grandparents experience the trauma. And I'm learning, the science is learning now that actually translates into your DNA and gets passed down. There are changes to the DNA when there's a trauma. So yes, I experienced trauma. As a little girl, I had sexual trauma, and I've had trauma throughout my life because, trauma often begets more trauma.
Yeah.
Because of some of the choices I made in my life. And then, yes, I was sitting across from, I went into a helping career with people who were experiencing trauma at that time or had recently experienced trauma. Yeah.
So I'm going to stick with this trauma piece just for a second because and it's interesting you brought up the intergenerational trauma because I have another program called Soul Finder Academy, and we've been talking about, somebody was asking about ancestral ties, and I don't have an expertise there, nor do I subscribe to it too much, but I do believe in what you're saying. I don't disagree with it. And I think what's really interesting to me with the work that you do, Laureen, is that I'm a victim of trauma as well. I think many people in membership are, like you said. And I want to ask you, because you do a lot of different great work. I'm looking at your website. What do you feel in your work really is the journey for the person? How do you help someone to, and you don't have to go into details because we're going to share your website and everything of how they can work with you, but how do you help people get from the trauma to the power place? Because it's so deep. Like I was in therapy for 17 years. It's so deep. So just talk a little bit about your work with people who go through that and how you bring them to a powerful place.
Yeah. Well, I think it's multi-dimensional. And as I talked about in my lesson in September, I talked in that lesson about the individual, so how the individual can get in touch with their multidimensional aspects. But then even outside of that, there's lots of dimensions to how we can heal ourselves or be healed through others and with the help of others. So I am one piece of what I would hope is a prescription that involves a lot of different people. So therapy, yes. Coaching, yes. Embodiment practices, yes. So it involves the mind, the body, the energy, because I'm aware that as an empath who's experienced trauma, there is an energy that I sense that can trigger me. And then there's the what did I say? Mind, body, energy, your soul, your spirit, your connection to that, and your emotions, which can be a huge piece of it and was part of what I trained myself in because I am a very emotional person, and it seemed to get triggered by my trauma responses. So the body would respond with a fight, flight, freeze response, and then it would respond with an emotional response. And so it gets very complex. And at a time when our brains are not really working to the best of its ability for us, and we're in kind of this reactive mode. And so what I've seen in myself and in other people is that we are going through life in a reactive mode, which looks like constant chaos and constant problems and being a lot of victim to our circumstances and, perceiving it that way. And at some point, you just get tired of all that. And the journey often looks like a bottom. We often will numb with drugs or alcohol or situations or sex or relationships or something to take us outside of that because it's so painful. And then eventually that will lead us to a bottom. And some of us reach really disastrous bottoms, and some of us get a handle on things earlier on. And so when the person's ready, they'll come to somebody like me or a therapist, and maybe the therapist will say, hey, maybe you need a little bit of help in addition to what we're doing here through our sessions to manage some of the issues that you're dealing with, like, planning to do certain things like, leave a relationship or things of that sort. There's lots of pieces to be picked up. So my guidance is through the person. So I'm very much going by their map. I'm not in control of this journey, they are, but I can kind of guide them to reflect on what's inside of them and give them some tools that I've learned over the years that have helped me.
So what are some of those tools that have helped you? Like, what were the tools or resources that helped you on your journey? And then talk a bit about their journey. Like, when you describe the journey, what do you mean by that? Like, what is their journey?
Well, we all have our own journey. We're all individuals, of course. But what I have noticed, I'm also a sociologist by heart and by training, which means that I'm interested in the connections and the patterns in society. And so what the patterns seem to be, and other people not, with bigger brains than me have studied this, have found that there's kind of a general pattern in our lives. And for me, it was Maureen Murdoch is a writer of The Heroine's Journey. And so it was in the framework of women. Joseph Campbell wrote and studied about men, the hero's journey. And so it's kind of this journey of battling your demons. And some of them are external and some of them are internal. And I think that we are all born, first of all, I should say, we are all born, I believe, whole and complete. And we have everything within us that we need to live this life. But society pushes us in certain directions, and I would even go so far as to say that we are programmed. We are given the scripts. We are told how to be, how we should act. There are lots of shoulds implanted in us between the ages of 0 and 6. We pick up all of our belief patterns in those ages. And then we start integrating them and internalizing them through, our younger years and into our 20s, and we start trying to produce the life that we're told we should live. And then, a little bit later in our 30s and 40s, we start to get tired of it because it's not working for us. It's not real to us. It's not aligned with who we are. We're living by the shoulds and not the internal guidance. We're looking outside of ourselves. So that, kind of ties in with the trauma. It's also the same point in time when we get tired of, trying to drown the bad feelings. And it's like, well, what do I do instead? There's something missing. I'm not content. I don't really know what to do with myself. And at some point, somebody comes to me or a therapist or you and starts looking inside. And that's the big turning point, is when somebody starts to look inside. And so I'm like a mirror. I reflect back to people what they're putting out. And I try to reflect back the really brilliant, magnificent parts of them, because these are the things they often don't see. They say that we look for evidence to support our beliefs, and a lot of people don't think they're good enough or they're worthy enough or any of the enoughs. And when I turn what they're saying or what they're doing in the world back to them like a mirror, they're actually astonished by how magnificent they are. So there's that really looking inward and really seeing themselves. And then there's this kind of at the bottom, at the descent, when you go into this kind of dark night of the soul, there's often a looking around for the pieces of ourselves that we left behind, ignored, forgot, thought were not okay to be with or expose, that we were ashamed of. And we reunite with some of those pieces, and we decide which ones we want to take on and which ones we, again, want to leave behind. And those are sometimes the shadow, what people call the shadow parts. And then there's this kind of reacquainting, I call it reclaim, we reveal what has been told to us. We reclaim what we have found from what we left behind. And then we can start to integrate those pieces together, the parts from the external world and our internal world, and weave them together in a way that we can bring it all forward and be whole. And to me, whole is it's like authentic, it's real, it's me. It's so hard to put even into words, but it's that part of us that we knew when we arrived on the planet, and that those pieces we've forgotten or thrown away or ignored, and to bring them back in to our lives and embody that is wholeness. You can feel it when you're not whole, and I think it's kind of a journey through life to become whole. Some of us get there and some of us don't, and some of us spend our whole lives trying to get there. So I look at coaching and therapy and all these resources that are available, and there's lots of them, thank goodness, as ways of accelerating that journey. So I go to coaches, I go to therapists, because I want to experience all this. I want to be fully me and expressed in this world, because I only get this one time in this one body in this one timeline. So I want to experience it all, and I'm a little bit impatient about it. So I go to people who've been there and done that and can help guide me and accelerate it, because I don't have to relearn it all, because they can, help me a bit, because they've been there.
So
I don't know if that answered your question or not.
It does. So where are you right now in your own journey?
Yeah, I am. So it's like a circle, if you can envision a circle starting out at the top where you're whole and complete when you are embodied into this person, this human. And then you kind of, at the bottom of the circle is the descent into the dark night of the soul, when shit's fallen apart and everything's chaos. And then as you come back up the other side of the circle, the left-hand side of the circle, that's where you're picking up the pieces and reuniting with those lost pieces of yourself, reintegrating them and bringing them forward into the world to be visible. And then there's acceptance. And then there's love, and really appreciating who you are. I think I am somewhere between acceptance and love. I'm working on self-love, which is has been so overused and is so important, and has so many different variables and aspects to it that, yeah, I think that's where I'm working on. And I slip back and forth, and some days I'm more evolved than others.
Mhm. Like all of us, that's the authenticity. And, the people that are up there saying they've achieved it all. And when we know that for the most part, they haven't,
Yeah, yeah.
I think it's such a disservice because,
Oh, yeah.
it doesn't do
Yeah,
well
I
for them.
am nothing but if I'm not real, like what is the point in
Yeah.
going through life and not being the real me? Like this is not a game. I'm done pretending. This is life. It's wonderful in all its aspects. Um, there's no reason to be anything but me.
So I have a question about your spiritual beliefs because I find it interesting that you said you come in whole and we're working on being whole again. What do you think
Hmm.
happens to us when we leave this planet?
Hmm. Well, I I have learned a lot through yoga
Hmm.
about what I believe happens to us when we leave this planet. Um, I have a lot of questions yet. It's interesting because even as a child, I had a lot of questions about spirituality. I believe I'm a spiritual person having a human experience. So I should set that out first. And I know that's cliche, but I do believe that. Um, my dad died in 2013, and I've had two kids, and I have to say that those events have also formed my beliefs, because I looked at my kids and I knew that there was something they arrived with that was not created in the womb.
Mm.
Um, so it came here from somewhere else. I used to say, like, my son's eyes would flitter when he was a little infant, and it was like he was still being given messages as he was coming onto the planet, as he was becoming awake. And then when my dad left the planet, it was weird because he was this big, larger than life man, and he died alone suddenly, and I didn't know. And it was like, well, shit, like, shouldn't there have been an earthquake or a crack in the, a crack in the timeline continuum or something, time space continuum? Like, it seemed like I should have known, and I didn't until I was given the call. Um, so, but what I did experience and what my mother experienced, because they'd been married for 45 years when he died, was a lot of messages coming through in different ways, and symbolism, through other people, dreams, messages coming from him. So, and I had a very freaky experience on a beach one day where he literally sent me sea glass on a beach that doesn't get any sea glass, and I was communicating with him in that way. And it's a great story, and I can share it sometime. But the my belief ultimately is that there is a universe, and an energy, and that we are all energy, and that energy isn't destroyed. So we know this scientifically, and I believe that we exist in other dimensions, in other ways. What that looks like, I don't really know. Um, the yogic traditions say that there are the ethers. There are, I think, 5 ethers, and depending on how you've lived your life, you might go to the third ether, the fourth ether, fifth ether. The third ether is like when you become an angel, so you're still able to communicate with the earth, beings, to be able to guide them. And the fifth is like you're like close to being I don't know, a god or something like that. So there's, and there's parts of that seem to resonate for me. I'm largely guided by my gut around these things. I don't know if I have any. I don't know that I have all, the answers. I just know that when somebody says something to me, it either makes sense to me or it doesn't, through my gut. So that's about as much as I can tell you.
Yeah, no, interesting. And when you work with people, you're able to hold whatever belief systems that support them. Because it doesn't sound to me like it's this way or the highway with you.
Oh, no, not at all.
Yeah.
No, not at all. I believe in following somebody else's map because, it's not my journey. I don't have the answers, they do. And so, I can remember when my son was little, reading him this book about the different religions, and the stories all came out with one thing in the end, which was love, like love one another. So that's my ultimate belief, is that we are here to learn about ourselves and to love one another. So however that shows up for somebody, it doesn't really make any difference to me.
So how old are your kids now, Laureen?
16 and a half and 13 and a half.
Oh, wow. You got teenagers.
I do. Yes. Yeah.
And are you noticing a different consciousness with them than what we had when we were younger? Because they're being,
Totally.
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, totally. Well, my daughter is, I don't exactly know what her powers are, but I'm pretty sure she's got preconception, like ESP. They both have senses that are beyond what we believe are our five senses. And she, when she was little, she would know things were going to happen before they happened. Let's put it that way. So I can remember one time having her in the pool, and she jumped and moved across to a different area, and seconds later, the pool shower thing came on. And there've been other things. She just knows. And he has the ability to, he told me this one day, he's like, doesn't everybody have that? He has the ability to see from other areas of the room, so not through his eyes. He's like, oh, sorry, Mom, I wasn't listening. I was up there in the corner of the room, I'm like, oh, okay, tell me more about that. He also sees the colors of music. So he'll hear a vibration, and then it has a color and a pattern to it. And I'm like, he thinks everybody does that. So they are tuned in to stuff that I never was. And I think that gives them a consciousness, a way of experiencing the world that is more, I guess, broad, if that makes sense. They just see things a little bit bigger, from a bigger picture. And I also want to say that I think I allow that to be. So giving space for that, and actually telling them that, you've got power there. I'd love to see you, explore that more, and who knows what you could do with that. I'd love to see that. So without any pressure, just allowing them to explore it,
Yeah, I think a lot of, because when I started realizing what I was and what I had, I started remembering all the stuff that happened to me when I was younger that I didn't define as these gifts, because I was told I was imaginative and dramatic and blah, 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 whatever. So
Right.
I think that your kids are lucky because they have a parent that is doing, allowing them to develop these abilities. And it also gives them, like you said, it's a place of possibility. They're living from a place of possibility, whereas we may have been growing up from a place of limitation because of our parents, and not their fault or anything. It's just, the way the world has shifted and changed.
Right.
So
Well, it
I
was
love,
scary for them. They're like, what is that? And
yeah,
who knows what that is. It was funny because my dad talked about ESP all the time, because that's what they called it back then, right?
yeah,
Premonitions and ESP. And his mother was extremely superstitious. So, the generations have had their own terminology, their own experiences with it. And I think that until recently, it's been very taboo, and depending on where you live and the communities you're surrounded by,
Totally.
it still is, right? So
Hmm.
yeah, yeah. I try to
Yeah.
make it okay.
I didn't even know my father's mother was a medium until I started having
Mm,
a lot of precognitive dreams because I didn't grow up with her. And I called my cousin up and I was like, "Are you pregnant?" And
wow.
she said no. And then like a month later, she's like, "I am pregnant. I couldn't tell you. And you have blah, 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 mama, pop, I have a different last name." But
Yeah.
anyway, it was just interesting. So it just all opened up and made sense, but it was like hush, hush for a little bit. Um,
Right, yeah. And as a parent, that's hard, like because my kids sense things, and even energy-wise they can sense things. And sometimes they sense things I don't want them to know.
yes.
Like if my husband and I are arguing and
Yeah.
things are going on, but to not acknowledge it and say, "Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right." It is a disservice to them. But I think that self-protection has been the come from for a lot of generations. So it's like, no, 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 you're wrong. That's
Yeah.
gaslighting, right?
Yeah, exactly. So true. Now, you said something else that was really interesting about, because I feel like it's a belief system that I have. We're existing in different dimensions. Is this
Mm,
at the same time, Laureen?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I haven't experienced being in different dimensions at the same time. Like, I don't have any memory of that. Um, I do believe in past lives, um, but I don't have any memory of being in more than one dimension at the same time
Okay.
yet.
Uh, yeah, yeah, exactly. Right. Anything can happen.
Yeah, I would love that. I would love to know more about that part of myself. Yeah.
um, yeah, I think what I love about you is, and this I love about the people that Laura finds for me to interview. I think it's really important for spiritual teachers, at least this is my opinion, and the people that I want to interview and invite on are people that let me just explain it this way. I was asked a long time ago by a television producer, what goes on the other side? And I shared with them what I thought. And I said, but this is what I believe today. I have no idea if it's going to change tomorrow. I refuse to put a lid on my belief systems. They're constantly growing and changing. And I
Mhm.
could tell you're doing the same thing. I think don't you feel like living your life from an open-minded observation has been really beneficial for your growth?
Oh yeah, and it's so much more fun. The
Yeah.
curiosity of it, the possibility of it. Um, yeah, it's. I don't even know how to go back into the box um, that is proposed for us. It just feels so small and diminishing and way less fun. Yeah.
Do you ever come across people in your everyday life that try to put you in that box?
Oh, constantly,
How do you
constantly.
how do you handle that?
Um, with a sense of humor, and I think compassion. So I practice compassion. I meditate on compassion. It's my thing. I call it leading from love, and um, because I need to work on it every day. Like it's not like it comes easy. It's yes, I love easily, but being compassionate is not easy every day. So I try to see them for what they are, which is someone who's trying to keep themselves safe. Because, and I talked about this in my lesson, is our first, primary human needs is love, safety, and belonging.
Mm,
And safety is a big one. So when I don't fit in the box, when I don't do what I'm supposed to according to the scripts, I am presenting as a danger. And that's why a lot of women in the past, they burned witches at the stake because they presented as a danger to the scripts and
yeah.
the programming. So I kind of say, yeah, I see you. You want me to get in the box because I look like danger to you. But I'm not, and you're going to learn something from me. And also with humor, just laughing like, yeah, I see you, and Yeah, that's nice. Thanks for that.
Do you ever have, because of that, difficulty with getting along with people, or do you find it, I wouldn't say difficult making friends, because I think we get choosy and we do find our like-minded people. But I'm living in a location that's new to me, and I play a lot of tennis, and you definitely don't have very conscious, spiritually conscious people on the tennis court. At least that hasn't been my experience. So
Mm.
I
Mhm.
find that my belief systems, the way you are, they can be very threatening to people, and
Mhm.
people, the belonging thing is interesting. They'll push me out of the circle. Do
Right.
you ever
Yeah.
have experiences like that?
Yeah, I have.
And I
I'm
wonder about
lucky.
parents
I'm
too.
sorry. What was that?
No, no, no. I know sometimes parents have this too with other parents, like it's difficult with kids in schools. But go ahead, finish what you were going to say.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've definitely experienced that. Um, and I'm lucky where I live now. I'm in a well, Victoria, BC has as many yoga studios as it does Starbucks. Like they're on every corner. And I find yogic. I find people who are into the yoga and a yogic lifestyle are more open.
Yeah.
And so I'm really lucky where I live. Now, having said that, practicing criminal law is a pretty closed-minded arena. Um, and so, yeah, I've come across that. And I just, I've decided not to shy away from it anymore. Um, I and at the same time it's difficult. So it depends on what day you ask me. Like right now I'm feeling strong and yeah, no bullshit. I'll just, tell them like, what I believe in and they can take it or leave it. But there are other days when I feel lonely and unsupported and misunderstood. So yeah, it can be hard and I find that community is really important. So I try to surround myself with people who are more like me, and I try to create community here in person and online for people to have that as well. And I try to keep those ties. So I just recently reconnected with a woman who's running a circle here locally, and I'll be doing it on Zoom, but at least I'll be surrounded by those people because I need that. Like I need to have that filled up for me. So it doesn't look like it used to pre-COVID, but it's something. It's better than nothing.
Yeah. I love that you said we look for love, safety, and belonging.
Mm.
And I'm assuming this is all stuff that we can give ourselves.
It is, and we're just. This is from science, and so the belief is that we, as communal animals, look for it from each other.
Hmm.
But we can definitely give it to ourselves. But it's kind of we are hardwired to look to be. We are hardwired to be on the lookout to make sure we get those things: safety, love, and belonging.
Yeah.
And then like I said in my lesson, the Maslow's hierarchy. At the top of the hierarchy is self-actualization and being your full potential as whatever you can be. And so if you're stuck down in the love, safety, and belonging, then it's very difficult, if not impossible, to get to the top of Maslow's hierarchy, the pyramid, and be your self-actualized being, right?
Yeah.
Because you're still trying to be safe and to belong and to have love.
It's so interesting. It's just it's this whole experience of my move has been so amazing, and it's been this lesson, so it's been so great.
Mm.
Challenging
Mhm.
too, there have been definitely moments that have been unbelievably challenging, but it's been like
Yeah.
so incredible because this is what I'm gaining. So
Mm.
my last question to you is, I have one after this, but it's more about how you work so we can find you. And then I'm going to open it to Q&A. But what are your rituals, Laureen, that keep you centered and balanced? What are your like daily, do you have daily, I know you have yoga. I love yoga too. I'm actually finally going to finish my certification.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah, I just did it for myself. And it's just so, oh my goodness, the mat is so important. That's why I really have to find a Canadian. If Victoria has so many yoga studios, I'm going to have to move there.
Yeah, yeah.
So I may be talking to you later going, get any single men? No, anyway. So what are some of the rituals that keep you really balanced or help you to maintain this incredible light that you are?
Thank you. Nature is very important. I live in the country, and I need to be able to connect, to listen to the birds, to watch the wind blow. You know, I go to the seashore a lot because there's an ocean nearby. So nature is really important, connecting with nature. I've been doing yoga so long now that it's part of my life, and I remember when I started it, I'm like, how can I possibly do that? Like, I need to go off and be on a mountaintop and be, you know, like a monk in order to live like this. And what I've found over time is that's not true at all. And so I do this thing where I constantly remind myself to bring my mat to my life, my yoga mat to my life. So if I go, I will go into a bathroom and do, breathing, box breathing or something if I need to, So I bring the yoga into my life and find a way to do that. For triggers, for trauma triggers, I use tapping a lot. So that's, the Nick Orton tapping on the meridian points. My kids are really grounding. I recently got a puppy because I have a tendency to float. Like, if you don't tie me down, I might float right off the surface of the planet, right? Because I can go into imagination and ethereal things pretty easily. So I've been kind of out there a bit lately, and so I felt like I really needed to come back into and occupy my human existence. And so I thought, what would be better than a puppy? So she is helping me to be more present in the moment, because presence is really important to me. My yoga, my meditation, I'd like to say exercise, but not lately. That's pretty much it. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. First of all, I have 2 dogs and 3 cats. But I've been looking at, I'm like, oh, I'm just ready for another puppy, but I'm not doing it yet in this house because I don't have I have a downslope backyard. So,
well, I'll just remind you, it's worse than having a baby. Like, I forgot how much work they were.
Oh, it is. When I got my second dog, my business got really busy and I put them in a boot camp for 3 weeks because I couldn't handle it. And I won't do that again because I missed some of his puppyhood. He was just so cute, but thankfully it helped me because he was a little terror. Great. So the last thing I want to ask, and then we're going to turn it over to Q&A, see if anybody has any questions, but let's talk about how I'm going to put your website in there, but the best, like some of the greatest things that you do to help people on this journey in their lives. And I know you did. Thank you so much for doing a class for us. But so your website is LaureenCoward.com. I'm putting it in the chat. We will always have it on your page anyway, where the Q&A is. We put all the information. But tell us a little bit about
Nowlan-Card, right? Not Coward.
Yeah. I don't know why I did that. Laureen Nowlan-Card.ca. And it's, I just put it in. Sorry about that, honey. So tell us about, you have different coaching programs and stuff. So tell us about some great ways that people can work with you.
Yeah. So I am doing a group coaching program in January, which will be around this kind of journey of revealing and releasing. So revealing the scripts, releasing the scripts. I call them scripts. It's programming, whatever beliefs, limiting beliefs, and then reclaiming those parts of ourselves, and doing it in community, because that also has been part of my journey. So trauma and the scripts happens in community. It's created in community, and releasing it and reclaiming also works best done in community. So that will be a 3-month program, and we work each week on different concepts that are part of those modules, revealing, releasing, and reclaiming. That will begin the middle of January for 3 months. I also do one-on-one right now. I haven't created it into a group program. It's the emotional liberation therapy, which is around learning to live with your emotions, not suppress them or be controlled by them, but to have them exist as messengers in your life, because they have really important messages to bring us, but we aren't taught how to understand our emotions. There's a lot of misunderstanding around it. And, trauma and bad experiences also come through the body, which its language is through emotions. So the body speaks to us in lots of different ways, but one way is through emotions. And so that is about understanding what, for example, your anger wants for you, and being able to sit with that and learn from it. It's a practice. It's very much based in yoga to become present to it every day. So there's that. And then I also do have a community online, which is around trauma and meant to bring people together to speak about what's going on in their lives and just be able to, have that support and those resources. And I bring all kinds of resources in there, like you do, for people to be able to, try different things out.
Love that. That's great. So guys, you can check her out. I put the website in the chat. It's Laureen. I'm going to say it right this time because you have a beautiful name, by the way. It's Laureen Nowlan-Card.ca, and you can check out all the things that she's offering. And then there's also a contact on there where you can contact her and ask her more about her programs, and especially about that January group she's starting if you're interested. I love the fact that you're teaching people how to be in their emotions. I think that's so friggin' important. I think I'm going to be 50. I just spit. You didn't see that. Thank God. I'm going to be 55 in a couple of weeks. And I really I own that I'm an emotional person, and I no longer make myself wrong for it,
Yeah.
So
It's a superpower too. Yes. Yeah. I was told I was too emotional. I was overly sensitive. I'm probably a sensitive person, by definition. And learning to own that and see it as welcome and empowering has been really life-changing. Yeah.
Yeah. For me too. It's because I used to be very, very depressed, severely depressed years ago. And it's not, I'm like it's not depression anymore. Thank God I've gotten through that. But it's okay, so I'm sad. Why am I sad? And then I investigate it. And then I'm like, that's not a real, sometimes I'm habitually in an emotion that's not really true anymore. But I'm just this is who I am. And I'm accepting of it. So I love that you brought that up. So are there any parting words before we go, sweetie?
Oh, I want to thank you so much. It has been so great talking to you. These conversations are gems too, really. And so what a gift for me today. Thank you so much, Marilyn.
Same here. And I can't say how much I appreciate you giving your time into my community, and any way that we can spread the word about you, please let us know. We're happy to do that.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.